Continuing our discussion on the series topic of science to samadhi, we went through series of sutras. The first one was the life is energy. The way we look at it, everything is energy. Whatever we see is also energy. Whatever we don't see is also energy. Everything about us is energy. Our thoughts are energy. Our food is energy. We are energy. So whatever we perceive is the whole universe is full of energy in one form or the other. So, and we had a lot of scientific, experiments to back up all these things. So ultimately we came to conclusion life is energy. Second sutra we talked about was that energy can be manifest and unmanifest. Just because something is unmanifest does not mean it does not exist. Manifest, all that means is your senses can perceive it. That's why we call manifest. But that does not mean things do not exist. Microwaves, radio frequency waves, infrared rays, a lot of spectrums of the rainbows, all these things, they do exist. Scientific instruments have been able to perceive it. Supersonic sounds, undersonic sounds, all those like different ranges of sounds that we cannot perceive does not mean they don't exist. They had they had done an experiment on elephants, how they communicate with each other over hundreds of miles at the supersonic speed level. Really? The sounds that they produce that we cannot hear, but they do communicate. They've been founding to communicate with each other.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yes. So a lot of surprising things have come out by the scientific research. So science has helped us realize that manifest and unmanifest, there is a very blurred line. Just because something is manifest, all that means is it's coming into the grasp of our senses. That's all.
To us only.
To our senses. And we think we are the only one exist in this world.
Right.
So whatever exists is all there is. A lot of things we cannot see. They had found on the flowers and the bees when they start looking for honey. They found out that a lot of bees have ultraviolet vision. And literally at night when they go for looking for honey in the flowers literally fluoresce under the ultraviolet light.
Right.
But we don't have ultraviolet vision, so at night we cannot see anything. So say, well, this is all there is. But they found out that with the ultraviolet rays, when they focus, they start shining. The same flowers look ordinary flowers during the daytime. But when the honeybees, they found out that they have that vision. So a lot of these things exist in the nature even right now. But the science has been able to tell us
So
that
definition of manifestation changes.
It
depending
changes,
on who
exactly.
you're looking.
Right. So now the interesting thing is that by using the scientific instruments, we are extending our senses. The things that we were able to hear with our ears, now we can hear better because we have specialized instruments.
Like a radio.
Like a radio, right.
Yeah,
Exactly. Simple.
Somehow
right.
it catches it and...
It catches the waves. The waves are always there.
But does it make it manifest then?
No, to us becomes manifest.
Yeah.
Now it
If
is
somebody talking thousand miles away is talking in your ears, to us it becomes manifest. Right?
The definition, what I'm saying.
No,
is,
definition can change now. All of a sudden, now if I tell you something, if I ask you something, is this announcer exist in Dallas talking about such and such thing? And you will say, yeah, he does. Because I just heard it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Same thing on the TV. They say, oh, the quake took place in Tokyo.
Otherwise the answer would
Tsunami
be, I don't
happened.
know.
Oh yeah, tsunami happened because I saw it on the TV. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So eyes and ears and touch and smell are getting extended
Extended.
with the help of instruments. And our manifest world has started expanding.
Right,
So,
just,
Like Sanjay was saying
black
all
holes
the...
are-
Yeah.
The same thing.
Black holes are the example. Like people before didn't know black
it was
hole existed.
Exactly. So, but now we do. So, manifest and unmanifest, the definition is changing. And now, this is a revolutionary thinking that I am telling you, is use yoga to perceive the world that cannot be perceived through any of the scientific instruments.
Right.
And that is the experience that is within. The yoga is an instrument. Meditation is an instrument that you can use to go into the world. The science will never take you. At least not yet.
Right.
So it is your own personal experience that you can have. So yoga is just another, and that's why the name of the topic is From Science to Samadhi. Yoga is also an instrument in the hands of scientific mind. Scientific mind where it's an open mind, you're ready to accept whatever results you see and then perceive. So you go within, you perceive yourself and you realize that consciousness does exist. And then it becomes your truth. And that's when the yoga, the meditation becomes your own instrument. And that instrument is available to all of us. We all are Paramatmas. Only if we make efforts to use this instrument to go on the route and find your own truth. Until then, when the cars came, everybody were afraid to ride on those so-called monsters because they had never seen a car. Even the bicycle was such a big monster for them. Oh my God, no. But then little by little you get used to it. The same way, that's the process of meditation. In the beginning, you get scared. You say, what's going to happen? This is nothing. This is all, it's all joke. What am I doing here? I'm wasting my time and this and that. But all those ideas are from the material side. Because in the material world, you're expected to have some return. Use some activity and the rewards have to be there. So with that mind, when you walk into the meditation, you're going to fail. Because you're doing a meditation with expecting certain results. So these are the instruments, these are the conditions of the yoga and the meditation that teaches you that go with an open mind. But when a scientist carries a lot of research and development, R&D, he's not bound by the results. He says, I'm doing a pure scientific experiment. Whatever results comes. And they are the true inventors.
Yeah, he's not looking for anything. He's
Exactly.
looking for what happens.
He's not bound by the expected, so-called expected results. But you and I are. When I pay $500 for iPhone, I want that iPhone to make me happy or do the job for me. But when he is inventing iPhone, he doesn't care what he's inventing. When the GPS was invented, like all these experiments were done, in lot of research was done in the defense, the satellites and all those things, satellite communications, were all done to find the exact locations of their own soldiers on the field so they can communicate in the wild. There are no telegraphic wires or underground cables or anything like that. So that's how it was found, a pure research. But then they came up with all this thing. So this is how the mind has to be open. You have to have the mind of a child so that you can believe what you will see. Nobody's telling you to believe what you don't see. So that's an open mind. So manifest and unmanifest is a very blurred line. So the first sutra was the life is energy. And energy can be manifest and unmanifest. Third sutra was that the crossover between manifest and unmanifest is a very gradual transition. All along the way, it's not like cut and dry. It's not black and white. It's all gray, different shades of gray. You can go from anywhere this level to manifest this level. You could be Ravan and Ram, but the extremes, you take it, then you suffer. When you get hooked on the manifest and unmanifest only, then also you suffer. But the whole thing is a gradual transition. When you say, I am a body and only a soul, soul leaves the body, then also you're suffering from those extremisms. A lot of religions have those views. As soon as you die, the soul goes to heaven, the body stays here, this and that and all that. That's childishness. That means these people have not reached to that level yet to understand that everything is Advait. Advait is the highest concept you can have. But that concept is very difficult in the people's mind. So they believe that body is here, this is here, that is here, this and that and all that. And they get fumbled all the time. They are picking this and leaving this alone. Until you are ready to accept the whole totality, you're not going to get the concept of Advait. And that's very difficult. So the third sutra said that manifest and unmanifest, the crossover is a transition. From the unmanifest to the manifest is also a gradual transition. And from the manifest, as soon as a thing becomes manifest, it already has started the journey into unmanifest. But the journey you cannot see. But you cannot perceive maybe. But you can see a person getting older, hair getting grays and all. That's a gradual transition until becoming unmanifest. But our ideas are so fixed that we are not ready to perceive it. And if we don't spend enough time to realize these things are happening, but if we use our little common sense, things happen. Things happen, people die, people born, people getting old all the time. But until we are ready to accept all these things will not be able to be perceived at our mind or consciousness level.
That's why they say people are not born or they don't die, they transform.
Exactly. So there was a Zen fakir, Zen monk. He always walked around with a skull on his hand, right? He says, "Why do you do that?" He said, "That reminds me that one of these days I'm gonna be a skull." And one time he was walking, and this is how it started. He was walking around, and all of a sudden he stumbled into some skull. They must have walked past the graveyard or whatever, maybe something must have surfaced. So immediately he started bowing down. And he says, "Why do you do that to the skull?" He says, "Well, this graveyard belongs to the rich people. So this guy must have been some significance. So I have to bow down. He might be a nobleman or a king or whatever, So I have to bow down to this guy. He must have carried so much heavy importance throughout his life." It's a joke, but that's the reality. In life, we are all different. In death, we are all the same. We will have a skull party. Someday we all will be in the same. Someday we all will have a drinking coffee or tea together in the form of skulls, when we will have no tongues and no taste left.
Somebody has sent me an email.
Right.
There's 5 skulls on the table, and wine and this and that, and cards. They're sitting underneath. It says, "Women waiting for perfect men."
Oh yeah. It's funny, but right?
Perfect man doesn't exist.
Exactly.
Same way perfect woman
Right.
doesn't exist.
So we have to come to realization that we all are gonna die. Death is a reality. We are gonna become imperceptible at some point, but does not mean we do not exist. We will have a different form of existence. And when this starts sinking in our head, I tell you, the revolution happens. Revolution happens in our mind, that we are ready to face the whole life as we see it, with whatever changes it has to offer. We are ready to accept all these changes as a process, a huge, gigantic process that is happening all around us, telling us that every single second this transformation is happening, of manifest to unmanifest, unmanifest to manifest. This is a constant process. There is nothing to worry about becoming unmanifest, and there is nothing so much joyous about manifest. So you're not gonna get hooked attaching yourself to manifest, running away from unmanifest, trying to save yourself from becoming unmanifest. Whatever is totally acceptable. Everything is fine. Nothing matters. Step by step transition to go into the samadhi state. So manifest and unmanifest are totally acceptable. The transition is a gradual transition. It's not a sudden thing. So that was the 3rd sutra. The 4th sutra told us that out of manifest, some are with consciousness and some are without consciousness. Stones are without consciousness. People, birds, bees, plants are with different level of consciousness, but they depend on it in each other. They are conscious and unconscious are interdependent. The world of conscious beings cannot exist without unconscious being, and unconscious being cannot exist without the conscious beings. So there is a continuous exchange of conscious and unconscious happening. So your ideas, your concept of conscious things also should start depart from your mind now. Because the iron that used to be part of the soil is part of your hemoglobin now, carrying the oxygen for you, keeping you so-called conscious. So that so-called consciousness, where is that concept? It's totally depend on your manganese and the iron and what not chemicals, the sodium, the salt and the chloride that used to be part of the salt, used to be part of the ground, the soil, all that is nourishing you to keep you what they call conscious. So manifest and unmanifest also didn't mean much. the conscious and unconscious also does not mean much. So in the world of God, everything is existing, and existence is the consciousness, so whether we can perceive or not. So conscious, unconscious, all these things require equal importance and equal respect. A stone needs the same respect as the blade of grass or an earthworm or you and me. At that level we all exist. So that was the fourth sutra, that consciousness and unconsciousness are all inclusive in the Advaita. So from that we went into the fifth sutra last lecture. That fifth sutra says microcosm is macrocosm. There is no difference between the smallest of the atom and the biggest of the gigantic structure you can find in the whole universe. It could be a supernova or 100 billion years light years long galaxy. They're all made out of the same thing. Just the way a droplet in the ocean is made out of exactly the same thing what the whole ocean is made out of. The difference could be in the proportion, but not in the quality. If you really extrapolate, a droplet is a miniature ocean by itself. An ocean is one humongous droplet bound by the shores. It's in its own finite way. So there is no difference between the smallest of the smallest and the biggest of the biggest. So at that level, Atma is the same thing as Paramatma. If you think we cannot exist without Paramatma, believe me, Paramatma cannot exist without us collectively either. So at that level, you have no reason to feel inferior to anything or anyone, let alone so-called superior people to you in the world. Let alone that, even Paramatma here too, don't feel inferior to Paramatma. Because Paramatma is also made out of the same stuff that you are made out of. Only you have to discover. Yeah. You have not discovered. That's why you think you are inferior to Paramatma. And at the same time, Paramatma has no reason to feel superior either to you. Because he is also made out of the same stuff that you and me are. So
very strong statement, but makes so much sense.
Makes so much sense.
So much sense.
Only if it has to go through the stages. If people had come from first sutra until now, we won't have a problem.
There won't be no question. There won't be any questions.
There won't be any questions. So, what are you gonna do?
Oh, next time. Oh, private session.
So, droplet and the ocean, there is no difference. The size of proportion. The multiplication of 2 into 4 is the same effort required to multiply 2 into 4 as 200 into 400, 2000 into 4000, 2 million into 4 million, 2 billion in process is the same, time is the same, everything else, the quality, proportions, everything stays the same, whether it's 2 to 4 or 2 billion to 4 billion, doesn't matter. So we talked about the fifth sutra, that in this vast universe, God has created everyone equal, everything equal. Nobody is superior, nobody is inferior. With that concept, it's so much easier to advance yourself into spirituality. At any single level, if you compare even the tiniest mosquito to the earthworm, to you, or anybody else, we all are bound by the same laws. If anybody jumps, they're all going to come down with the same gravity force. Nobody's going to fly in the air. Everybody has 2 ears and 2 eyes and both legs. Everybody is the same. King without a kingdom, soldier without a shield is not a king, not a soldier. So only when we give importance to other people is only our sense of inferiority. That we consider these things as important, that makes somebody else superior to us. So the fault lies within us and not within somebody else. So it is our knots of the heart that is coming in the way of reaching the self-realization. It's our knots, nobody else's. So feeling inferior is your fault. And feeling superior is even your fault also, but it's 10 times worse. So it's the higher level of stupidity. But feeling inferior is definitely a sense of stupidity. Stupidity compared to the knowledge of the self. You may be smart from traditional knowledge, material knowledge. That does not mean anything when it comes to this spiritual knowledge. This knowledge of the self. The self-realization is the ultimate knowledge. That's called